Oh, I know we're jumping around a little bit. We were going to talk about jobs in wrestling later, but since the conversation went there, we went there early. So let's just take it back, and we're going to talk about the principles on which the FWA is basing its business. Before we talk about them, we're not going to talk about them each in turn, but before we go into them, why was the decision made to have that as the first thing that was released after the FWA's return was announced? Why not do what so many fans wanted, which was, announce the roster, announce the matches for the first show? Why did you want to go and do the principles first?
Well, I mean, as people said to me, actually, the best analogy is somebody wrote on the forum, what just happened to announcing a card, announcing a show and announcing matches. Well, I'll tell you what happened to that. There's a whole... Back in the day when I used to promote shows on the forum, nobody else did. Now there's a whole forum for people doing that, and there's probably 50 promotions on there. Why do something different? Because that's what the FWA has always done. It's something different. But everybody sort of knows what... there's so many shows around. There's so many bad shows, but there's lots of good shows as well. But there's so many good matches in England now. I mean, a huge amount of good matches. For us to make a company that's different, it's not... we're using a slogan. I mean, it's been thrown about or whatever, but it's a concept, not a company. The FWA is a concept, not a company. Don't get me wrong, it's a business, but so many people use. And first of all, the actual principles was something. 4FW contacted me about helping mentor their company, and I said to them, "Look, I think you should make a list of a list of principles." I said it's something that Eastern companies do. Western companies have mission statements. We're going to do this. We're going to do that, but they don't say their principles. It's like if somebody says to me, the problem that we've got in the world as a whole, it's all about the ends justifying the means. Everybody's, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to have a war on terror. Well, what does that entail? Well, it's a war on terror. Well, that's terror, isn't it? So people say what they want to do without explaining their principles or their morals. The FWA is a living entity in the fact that it has a list of morals. And I'll tell you why it's a living entity. It's a living entity. It is because there's certain decisions that the people involved don't have to make because the FWA has its own principles. And if we contradict those principles, we can't do it. It's almost like the company saying back to us, no, I'm not going to do that. Otherwise, you're all going to look stupid now. You're all going to kill your own credibility. If you go against those principles, and it's going to be hard, I can guarantee you there'll be multiple times where I smack my hand against my head and say, I shouldn't have put that principle in there. But that's just human nature. We all. I'm sure there's plenty of people that are married out there that probably think, oh man, if I don't get married, that hot girl that's giving me the eye, But hopefully, rationale takes over, and you go. So I think that's why the principles are so important.
So you're saying it's almost setting yourself a challenge. You've put these 10 statements out there in public.
It's not a challenge because to say it's a challenge is to say that we think that we're going to cross the principles, but I'm just saying human nature. There's going to be times where it's just irony. You should go and listen to the Alanis Morissette song. But there's going to be times when something will come up and we won't be able to do it because of the principles. That's what I know that will happen. But the principles give our fans, but not just our fans, the people who are our sponsors and people like that. We're talking. There's companies we're doing big deals with at the moment, like big companies basically, and we want to tell those companies what we're doing as well. We want it to have its own identity. Otherwise, what separates it from every wrestling company in the UK? We don't want to be a threat to any other company in the UK because we want to be totally different. How can you be a threat if what you do is completely different, even down to even down to the... I mean, I guess I can see why people would see we would be a threat because we're using the same guys, but what we're trying to do is do something that everybody, including our wrestlers, can look to and go, this is why I want to be a part of that project, and that's why the principles were so important. And it was a talking point. We got more press by not announcing a match than we would have done if we'd have announced a match. Did you notice as soon as we started announcing matches, that thread dropped right down?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And actually, did you notice that the day that had the least negative press or the least post was the day we announced the Charitable Trust Fund? With the first good principle that, people couldn't slag, nobody wanted to comment on it. So I think the principles did exactly what they were meant to do.
Well, let's look at one of the most striking statements, I guess, within those principles, which immediately, bounces off the page at you, I guess. You say in one of them that the FWA should be recession-proof. Now, what gives you confidence that you can stay afloat as what is essentially an upstart, new wrestling promotion during these kind of I know it's a cliche to say it, but they're financially turbulent times.
Well, I mean, we aim to be recession-proof. That is the key, aim to be. The reason it's so important is how many companies do you know that are actually trying to be a business or are just trying to, I know so many companies that did the sort of Alex Shane model, I would say, which is just, let's run a great show. Oh, damn, we lost loads of money. Or, or we sold out, but actually the break even needed an extra 100 people in a sellout, more than a sellout. That sort of, I see that happening all the time because wrestling's not run by business people, it's run by wrestling fans, which is cool. But we aim to be recession proof, and to do that, we've incorporated, I mean, I won't bore you with the details because, it's already, it's probably already, gone further than it needs to. But there are multiple things that we are doing which will help us reach that aim of being recession-proof. It's more something that we're conscious of, and we're working to make sure that we don't overstretch ourselves, which is going to be difficult. And just like anything, any moral crusade, principles are morals, right? And when you preach your principles, it's a moral crusade. And I know that might not be doing myself any favours by saying that, but we're not going around saying we're better than everyone. We're saying, look, we're going to try our best to do this stuff because it's the right thing to do. Here's the difference between a truth and a lie, right? A truth needs or a lie needs constant maintenance, right? You constantly need to maintain a lie, right? It's like you tell somebody, you tell your girlfriend, I was at this place, and then somebody drops you in it, constantly maintaining. The truth needs no maintenance. It is the truth. And from my perspective, the principles are basically the truth. It's the right thing. This is the right thing, and a lot of people have said that to me. But they are aims. We're aiming to do this, but we need help from everyone. We're not saying that we're not. We could all be on the way to a show, and the van goes off the road or whatever, and we all die. It might, but these are our aims. And to be honest, I've aimed for a lot of things in the past that have come to fruition, and that is one thing that people can't dispute with me. So I wouldn't have put my name to it if I didn't think it was possible.
So, I mean, we won't go into obviously too much detail about kind of revenue streams and all that, but we've mentioned jobsinwrestling.com already. We've mentioned the relationship you have with your contacts in India, among others. Let's talk about one other source of income, I guess, which I know you've already mentioned briefly. That's the Grapple Group, which is another sister company of the FWA. Just in layman's terms, what is the Grapple Group? How does it make its money?
The Grapple Group's an agency, so the wrestlers are contracted to the Grapple Group, and we've actually got, we just announced it to the wrestlers last week, but Billy Wood, who was the guy that got EWW the television deal, Billy Wood's a music agent. I mean, he takes a lot of the top talent from Britain's Got Talent and X Factor, and also main, people in the top 10 currently are people that Billy has agented or managed, and Billy is going to be one of the guys running the Grapple Group, basically. And the idea of the Grapple Group is that, as I said to you before, we've got a lot of people who, on our books, with the right acting training or the right, being spotted by the right people, can make money outside of wrestling. And I think for wrestling to really be mainstream, I mean, a lot of people said that Hulk Hogan doing Rocky 3 was a huge part in making Hogan larger than life. And I believe it came at the right time. And I'm not saying we're going to get anyone Rocky 3, but if we can even get, a core of 6 to 10 of our guys regularly appearing on TV to the point where people start going, oh, I know that guy. I know he's one of those British wrestlers. Then that's better than name me a British wrestler or a Big Daddy. We need to start getting them out there. So the Grapple Group, what we aim to do is agent these guys for wrestling shows and to work overseas, but also get them television work and stuff as well.
So essentially, are you saying that this is an extension of the talk you gave to the IPW locker room?
It's a total extent. The FWA shows are a shop window for the agency.